Have you ever replayed a work conversation in your head for hours? A short comment from your boss, a message that felt colder than usual, a meeting where your idea was ignored. And suddenly, you're not just thinking about work anymore. You're questioning yourself, your competence, your value, your future. If that sounds familiar, you're not weak. You're human. But here's something interesting. The smartest employees, Dan, stop feeling these moments. They stop taking them personally. And today we're going to talk about why. Let's start with this. Taking things personally is the default setting for people who care. If you're invested in your work, your brain naturally connects feedback to your identity. So when something goes wrong, it feels like it's about you, not the situation. That doesn't mean you're insecure. It means you're engaged. The problem starts when every emotional reaction turns into a belief. Smart employees understand this difference early. Feelings are signals, not conclusions. They recognize that initial sting of disappointment or frustration, but they don't let it write the final story about their abilities or their worth. It's a subtle but powerful shift in perspective that separates a momentary feeling from a permanent self-judgment. Here's a hard truth about workplaces. Most behavior isn't personal. It's contextual. Managers are overwhelmed. Deadlines are tight. Communication is rushed. Decisions are often made with incomplete information. When a smart employee receives criticism or gets overlooked, they don't immediately ask, "What's wrong with me?" They ask, "What else could be influencing this?" Pressure, timing, office politics, someone else's stress. Think about it. Your manager might have just come from a tense budget meeting, or a colleague who sent a blunt email might be juggling 3 urgent projects. Not everything is a message about your worth. Sometimes it's just noise from a system under strain. Learning to see the context instead of just the comment is a game changer for your mental well-being at work. This is where many employees get stuck. They confuse performance feedback with personal judgment. Average employees hear, "This needs improvement," and translate it to, "I'm not good enough." Smart employees separate the two. They understand a task can fail without you being a failure. A mistake can exist without defining you. And feedback can be useful without being personal. Imagine a report you wrote has a section that needs rewriting. That's feedback on a document, not a verdict on your intelligence. When you stop attaching your identity to every outcome, resilience becomes automatic. You can receive criticism, learn from it, and move on without the emotional baggage because you know your value isn't tied to a single piece of work. Taking things personally often happens fast. A tone, a look, a sentence with no context. Before you know it, your heart is racing, and your mind is spinning. Smart employees don't suppress these emotions. They slow them down. They learn to notice the reaction as it happens. I feel defensive. I feel dismissed. And then they pause. That pause is incredibly powerful. It prevents an immediate emotion from turning into a story about what it all means. It creates space between what happened and your interpretation of what happened. And that space is where emotional intelligence lives. It's the moment you choose to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It gives you the power to decide how you want to handle the situation, rather than letting your initial feelings dictate your actions. One of the most underrated skills in any career is emotional budgeting. Think about it. You only have so much emotional energy in a day. Not every comment deserves your attention. Not every misunderstanding deserves an internal debate. Not every moment of friction deserves your stress. Smart employees are excellent emotional budgeters. They quickly assess a situation and ask, is this worth my mental energy? Sometimes the answer is yes, and they address it calmly and directly. But very often the answer is no, and they consciously choose to let it pass. They don't give it any more thought. This isn't weakness. It's a quiet form of power. Choosing what not to internalize frees up your energy for the things that truly matter. Ultimately, you have to focus on what you can control. You can't control how clearly others communicate their thoughts. You can't control how fair every single decision feels, and you certainly can't control how emotionally mature everyone around you is. But you can control your response. You can control your commitment to growth, and you can control your own professionalism. Smart employees treat feedback as data, not judgment. If the data is useful, they use it to improve. If it's just noise, they discard it. They invest their time and energy in skill building, not in emotional spirals about things they can't change. Over time, this proactive mindset compounds, leading to greater skill, confidence, and influence in their careers. This is important. Not taking things personally doesn't mean becoming cold, apathetic, or passive. It's not about letting people walk all over you. You can still set boundaries. You can still ask for clarification. You can still address issues and stand up for yourself. The difference is that you do it without turning every situation into a personal referendum on your worth. You respond intentionally, based on the facts and your goals, not emotionally, based on hurt feelings. It is the difference between saying, I am concerned about this deadline, and why are you always putting me under so much pressure? One is a professional response. The other is a personal reaction. The workplace will never be perfectly fair, perfectly clear, or perfectly gentle. That's just a reality. But smart employees learn this early. Not everything is about you, and that's a relief. When you stop carrying the weight of every awkward interaction or critical comment as a personal burden, you free up so much energy for what actually matters: your growth, your focus, and your long-term confidence. So if this resonated with you today, take a breath. You're doing better than you think. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights.